Hey, it's Rob. Welcome to Axel's Garage. We're out here with our 2000 Jeep Cherokee XJ Sport. You know the deal. Kids have named it Cosmo, and it's got a pretty serious rake to it. And the reason why it's got this rake is because prior to us buying it, the previous owner, put in new heavy-duty leaf springs, factory replacement, but the heavy-duty version, Dorman leaf springs, and in the front we have 20-year-old worn-out coil springs. So it's got that rake to it. And in a previous video, I'll link it up here, we went through a process of measuring to see how much leveling in the front, how much lift in the front we needed to level it out. And we really overthought that. A real simple way would have been to jack up the front like we did and either measure from the top of the tire to the wheel well, or from the wheel well lip to the ground, and that would have been much easier. But if we turn around here and we come in and measure right through the center of the wheel, we got 29 7/8 to the lip. And we know we need to come up, I measured at the pinch weld, we know we need to come up a good solid inch at the pinch weld to level it out. So there isn't a ton of availability of different sizes and different variations. Like you can't go ½ inch, 3/4, 1 inch, 1 1/4, and so on. So there's a lot of 1 7/5, there's a lot of 3/4. What we did was we decided to go this way. Ordered from Rough Country the 0.75, 3/4 of an inch leveling kit. I'll link it in the description below. Why'd we get it from Rough Country? Because it was the cheapest? Maybe. I mean, it was only like $1 or $2 within another popular brand. Like I said, this in the previous video, this is just a temporary thing. We just want to level it out. We are anticipating in the spring possibly doing a lift on it, and if not, we're going to wind up replacing the coils anyway if we don't do the lift, when we do some work on the suspension to begin with. And then what we did was we got from Crown, we have coil spring isolators, which are already in the vehicle. They're probably worn out, they're probably smushed down. These is a Crown part number. I'll link this in the description below as well. Crown makes a lot of the old Jeep and Chrysler replacement parts. So we got a coil spring isolator, and we got our spring spacer. So our spring spacer itself, which is supposed to be 0.75 of an inch, actually measures just under that 0.75. So it's really going to be, really measures to 11/16 in reality. And then the coil spring isolator itself is measuring right about 3/4 of an inch. So the coil spring isolator has actually, it feels like a harder rubber, and it's measuring 3/4, and this is measuring just under 3/4, 11/16. So what we think we're going to do is we're going to pop this up there against the spring pocket, put the coil spring isolator in behind it, and that measuring, what we got here, is actually coming out to right about 1 3/8 lift. Now remember, this isn't going to give us 1 3/8 over what we have, because there is a coil spring isolator in there that we're going to take out. Now, is it flattened out? Probably. Is it even there? Did it disintegrate over the 20 years? That's a possibility too. We have no idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the car up on jack stands. We're going to do the passenger side for you. We're going to pull it off. Get the coil spring isolators and the spring spacers in. We'll do the other side. We'll pull the car out, and we'll show you what it looks like and see if we accomplished our goal or not. Alright, so with the wheel off, you can see it's pretty rusty in here, and that's why we bought a gallon of PB Blaster that comes with this spray bottle. It's a non-aerosol, so we could really just spray everything down. We're going to soak everything, because eventually all this stuff is going to get taken off, and the bleeder screws, the caliper bracket, I mean, everything is just like we expected it to be, really. But in the meantime, we got a bolt back there that holds the coil spring retainer. We sprayed that down, we broke it free. And we'll pull it out. It's a 13mm. And it just goes into the to the housing there, and with this little clip that goes over the bottom of the coil spring to keep the coil spring in place. I'm going to hit that with a Y wheel before I put it back in. You know me, I don't leave that stuff. So now we got this spring, it's still in here tight, the rear end's jacked up. We're probably going to have to disconnect the shocks, because that'll be a that should be a limiting factor when we let the rear down, the front axle down. Keep pulling it a rear, but we have it up right now on the jack, and the frame is on the jack stand. So before I let it down, I'm going to disconnect the bottom of the shock. I already sprayed that down. That's 13 millimeter also, but I need a socket on the bottom and a wrench on the top, and we should be able to pull that out and then lower this down. Hopefully this will get down low enough where we can pop the spring out. So these are probably going to be rusted pretty good, but before I break out the impact, I'll give it a shot. Give it a shot with just a regular ratchet and see if we could. Man, that's not budging. All right. And with the impact, it came right off nice. Robbie, hold this on that nut right there. You on it?
Mm-hmm. Got it. What are you trying to take off?
All right, so now we got the shock disconnected. That should be the limiting. You want to let the jack down slow, Robbie? All right, the only other limiting thing that we might have would be the brake cable, the track bar, who knows, but...
All the way down?
Let's see, well, keep going, slowly. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. All right. Alrighty. So that's hanging all the way on this side, and doesn't look like it's enough to let the shock out. Where am I limiting? It's going to be the sway bar right here. Okay, so jack it back up, Robbie. All right, 17 millimeter on the sway bar. Let's see if we can get that bad boy off without too much trouble.
Why do you need to take off the sway bar? What are you trying to get off?
We're trying to get the spring out. So you got to drop this down as much as you can. Alright, so we got the sway bar. Jackie Downey. Easy, 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 easy. Now go onto the under like this part on the other side.
Where?
Like right under the spring on the other side.
With the jack?
Yeah. All right, give it one jack. Go again.
What?
Jack it again. All right, so Robbie's jacking that side. I'm watching this side, which is coming down. Go up one more. Good, go up again. 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 Good. A little more. Good, okay. So he jacked up that side. I watched this side to make sure it continued to go down. We got the sway bar disconnected on both sides. And I should be able to push it enough where I could pull this spring out. Maybe with a little help from a pry bar that's really not for automotive use, but it works. There we go. All right, and we got our rusty spring out. Up top, we got our original spring isolator, which is really stuck in there. Try to get that out. All right, so after beating on it a little bit, they actually seem in really good shape. All They actually seem like they're in good shape. I expected these things to be all corroded and broken and rusted. But it looks pretty good, and we don't have a lot of rust up here either, which is nice. I was worried that this would be all rusted as well. It's really not too bad, so I am going to lay that down. I'm going to spray all this stuff down. I'm making a mess with the PB blaster, and that's because eventually all this is going to come out, so we might as well start adding PB blaster every time we get under the truck. Alright, spring stop, seen better days, but it's starting to come apart. Alright, now we'll get our new coil spring isolator and our new spring spacer, and we'll get them in. We thought the camera was on, it wasn't. But we have our spring spacer and our spring isolator. Spring spacer is going to go up against the vehicle, then the spring isolator to go between the spacer and the coil spring. I hit the mating surfaces with white lithium grease. I also hit the top where it's going to sit into the spring pocket with white lithium grease. And when we put the spring up, I'm going to do the bottom of it with some white grease also. Alright, so hopefully that will prevent any rubber to rubber squeaking, and it'll prevent any difficulty getting it apart next time we take it apart. So now we got the coil spring. Now remember, we're adding a little bit of space, so it's going to be a tighter squeeze to get the coil spring in. I didn't want to, disconnect the track bar or anything like that. So what I'm doing here is getting some of this white grease where the coil spring is going to sit on the spring isolator. All right, and just a little schmear. All right, the spring is going to go back up in, and now we got to get the spring over the thing there. So Robbie, you could actually come on this side and put your foot right here on top of the caliper and push down, because I don't really want to disconnect more stuff than I have to. All right, so if you just hold some steady pressure on it, go with your foot again. Hang on. All right, there we go. All right, so Robbie with his foot is able to help me get it on, and then we can smack it the rest of the way in. You want to orient the spring bottom where it's supposed to be, which I'm trying to find. It should be there's a pocket right there. It's all filled with rust. So there's a little divot where the spring is going to sit, and it's all filled with rust. So let's let that jack down. Good. There we go. All right. So there's a little cutout.
Oh yeah.
In the spring seat.
Yeah,
you just had it down too far to hit the cutout. Let the jack up just a little bit more now.
That's where it is on this side.
Yeah. Go figure. No, the other way.
Oh, down?
Let the jack down. Did I say up?
Yeah. You said jack.
Okay, good. So we're in the seat there. We're good up there. Now we can go ahead and put our little spring clip right here. There's our bolt for our spring kit, and what do we do? What do we do? Put a little grease on it. Why, Robbie? To make it easier for the next guy? Because the next guy might be you. And I'm betting on this thing, it will be us in not too long amount of time. Alright, so we got our sway bar in the right spot, we got our shock in the right spot, so we could put our shock bolts in that are shitty and ugly also. All these bolts are rotted to shit. I really shouldn't have expected anything any different based on the age of the vehicle. Alright, so a little lube on the shock bolts. And put a little lube on the sway bar. Alright, so we got the shock bolted back up, the bottom of the shock. We put the bolt in for the sway bar because I don't think it needs to be all the way out. And I just put it in hand tie right on top. And I gave everything that we might eventually need to take out while I have access here and everything's apart. Well, the wheels off, I should say. With some PB Blaster. And then what I did was took a rag and just wiped off the white grease that got on the outside of the isolator and the spacer. So we'll move the camera down so that you can get a good shot. Alright, so right here we got the isolator going into the coil spring. We got the spacer in between. I got white grease sandwiched in between the spacer and the body. White grease sandwiched in between the spacer and the isolator, and then white grease sandwiched in between the isolator and the spring. That's just to prevent squeaking, and it's to prevent the rust that might come down this way or come up from the spring from damaging the rubber. It actually works really well. It's a kind of stupid hacky thing, but it works really well. Sprayed everything else down with penetrating oil, gave it a good soak, because this thing did squeak a little bit too. And hopefully after we finish with this, just regular maintenance, and it'll get us through the winter. Now I'm going to do the other side, and I'll show you what it all looks like when we're back down on the ground, and then we'll measure and see how much of a difference we were able to achieve. Now I tightened all those, right? Mm-hmm. Alright, so we got everything buttoned up back together, car's back on the ground. I'm not going to measure it yet though, because you know, we had the differential in there, the front rear end, so to speak, tweaked a little bit, getting it back and forth, sway ball links, everything like that. So put it back down on the ground. I'm going to have Robbie drive around the block a couple times. Then I'm going to have him back into the same spot, and then we're going to measure and see where we are, what we did, whether it helped and got us where we want to be. Alright, so you saw when Robbie pulled in, it still had a little bit of a rake to it. It brought it up. It was 29 7/8, parked right here from the ground through the center of the wheel to the bottom of the fender, and now it's at 30 7/8 on this side in the same spot. I measured on the other side, and it's at 31, so it's like an eighth of an inch or so higher on the other, which is kind of, it could be the variable of the driveway not being completely smooth and level. It doesn't look crooked, the car, at all. You can't tell that 1/8 of an inch. But so the 3/4 inch spacer brought me up a full inch, probably because we put new coil spring isolators in. The ones that were in there didn't look too bad, but maybe they would smush down a little bit. So with the new isolators and the spacers, brought us up an inch. My crazy math from the first video that we did said that I needed to go like 1.25 inches, and I think 1.25 inches would have done it, because I did check those pinch weld locations where I was 1 inch higher in the back than in the front on those pinch welds, and now I'm 1/2 inch higher in the back than in the front on the pinch welds. So I mean, we could have measured very simply here. We didn't, because we overthought the process, but in the end the 3/4 inch spacer with the isolator gave us 1 inch. We're going to drive it around, see how we like it. The girls really didn't care or notice at all. It was just the boys that noticed. And we'll see whether we like it or not. We do have another set of wheels that are a little bit bigger. They're like factory TJ wheels, I think, that we have in the garage. We're going to throw them on, see what kind of look it gives it. Like I said, this is it's only temporary through the winter, and then in the spring maybe we'll do something with either a lift kit or a small lift kit or replacing the springs and doing the suspension over, because it's a 20-year-old front suspension and it needs it anyway. So that's it today from Axel's Garage. Hope you enjoyed the video. Give us a comment, let us know what you think. You could make fun of me for overthinking the measuring in the first video. I don't care. I got thick skin. But this got us a little closer. Like I said, I'm not 100% happy with it, but we'll see what happens. We'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.